What is up, Detroit Red Wings fans? Today is the first installment of the Offside Show, and we'll be talking everything Detroit Red Wings. We got Jim from the Detroit Sports Room in the building. What up?
Hey, what's up? I'm looking forward to talking some Wings hockey. I've been looking forward to talking hockey for quite a while now. I talk football on the roundtables and just looking forward to this show. It's going to be a special show. I'm glad everybody's going to join us and have some fun today.
Yeah, we got Seth J. Walker in the building. What is up, man? He is a writer for us. What's up, Seth?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm a writer now for Detroit Sports Alliance. I've also operated my own website in the past, Sports Source Media, where I covered high school and college sports, and looking forward to talking about some Red Wings hockey today.
All right, sweet.
What's up, Drew? I just had to do it.
Drew? All right, so, let's dive into the questions now. First question is, Ken Holland was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a builder. What are your thoughts on Ken Holland, and what were your thoughts on him being inducted? Also, what's up, Funky Nuts?
You can call me Funk.
Yeah,
let's go Red Wings. There you go, buddy.
All right. No, but back to the question. Ken Holland was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a builder. What are your thoughts on this, and what are your overall thoughts on the Holland tenure? Jim, we'll start with you.
I like Ken Holland at first. I thought at first that he did a pretty good job. He inherited a team. Unfortunately, he did build a couple of teams. So I guess builder is an accurate thing. I think he ran into the salary cap when they implemented the salary cap. I think it was a really hard thing for him. His drafting was okay, especially in the later rounds. His first round picks didn't work out as well. And I think that everybody wanted to come to Detroit at that time to get a cup. And so I think that back then it was just easy for him to trade for people. He would trade away talent, trade away draft picks, and get all the players he needed. You know, superstar players that wanted to come here, superstar players that would take pay cuts. And then when the salary cap was implemented, he just couldn't do as much as he did then. He never really adjusted to that, I don't think. And the team went down from there. But I would remember Ken Holland as the guy that brought a few championships, some Stanley Cups to the Red Wings, and I'll always appreciate him for that.
All right, I like it. Seth, what are your thoughts on Ken Holland getting into the Hall of Fame, and what are your thoughts on the Ken Holland tenure?
Well, overall, I think if you look at his total body of work, I think his addition into the Hall of Fame is very well deserved. He was a great builder for many years. 'Tis true he inherited a heck of a team, but he also played a part before that as a scout and general manager. So when he took over, he was able to go from there and make some shrewd trades, like when he got Chelios, and also, made some great free agent signings. And then, Jim mentioned about, how things changed with the salary cap. Personally, though, I feel like the Red Wings, I dreaded the salary cap because I felt like they were going to fall flat on their faces at first, but they stayed competitive and even won another cup. I just feel like after a while, though, his tactics didn't work anymore. He wasn't able to attract the big name free agents like Ryan Suter and who was the other guy that was in New Jersey that ended up going to Minnesota. Can't think of his name.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Drawing a blank. I hate when this happens.
Yeah, I do too. I'm drawing a blank as well.
So basically, they were the two big name free agents of that summer, and they both ended up going to Minnesota instead of Detroit.
Was it Stevens?
No.
Stevens, was it?
No. This was back in 2012.
Oh, okay. All right. Different era. I've been watching hockey for a long time now.
Yeah. But I felt like ultimately the Wings, Holland waited a little too long to consider doing a rebuild. He held on for too long. and was too loyal to certain guys, letting them hang around for maybe longer than he should had. But overall, he had a successful tenure. He just lost the Midas touch after a while, just like Dumars did with the Pistons.
Yep. It's a very good take on that.
Yeah, no, I like that. No, I'm happy he got in. I'm very happy for him. I liked his contributions to it. I liked the contributions to building the 2002 Stanley Cup team in particular. Also a shout out to CA3 Sports Talk. He is a DSA member.
What's up, CA3?
No, but I guess his building of the 2002 team was so interesting. We had so many aging stars, and but we made it work. It almost seems like this whole thing shouldn't have worked, but it somehow did. Like in 1999, we gave up a pretty decent amount of assets to get a 37-year-old Chris Chelios. We signed a 37-year-old Brett Hall, a 35-year-old Luke Robitaille, and then we even traded to get Igor Larionov back. And by the time we got Larionov back, he was already 40 years old. So that was the interesting way to build a Stanley Cup winner, but it worked. We got all these old guys. They're all experienced, and they all contributed heavily to the Red Wings winning it all in 2002.
Yes, they did.
And he also built a very strong team for the 2008 Stanley Cup when he drafted. Hold on, I'm giving us some of the ways. I'm working on a Ken Holland video, and this is some of the stuff that I'm going to be putting in there. But he grabbed Pavel Datsyuk in the 6th round, and he grabbed Henrik Zetterberg in the 7th round. I don't know if y'all might remember this guy, but he went absolutely postal for a whole series. He had 3 hat tricks and just one playoff series and a sweep. And then we even got Johan Franzen in the 3rd round. All these guys were key contributors to the 2008 Stanley Cup winning team. So I guess my other thoughts on it are Holland would do anything it took to win a Stanley Cup, but after everything stopped kind of working, I guess once we were no longer contenders, he tried too hard to keep the playoff streak alive as opposed to doing everything it took to win a Stanley Cup. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on the Holland tenure. Does anyone else have anything to add?
The name just popped in for me, Zach Parise. He was 2012. Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. The Wings were trying to go after both guys, and they both ended up going to New Jersey. Minnesota.
Yeah, they went.
Whereas, like you guys mentioned, 10 years or 11 years earlier, the Wings were able to get Robitaille and Hall, and then trade for Hasek.
And Yui Krupp actually in that year too. They in 2002 they had Yui Krupp as well. That got from Colorado.
I think he signed in '98 though.
No, this is 2002.
Yeah, he was on the team,
Yeah,
he had signed in '98.
He might have signed earlier than that. You're right about that. What's up, JMO?
He missed the whole year, I think.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, man, it's been a while. Sometimes the old memory, man. I'll tell you what. All right, PD, what we got next?
All right.
What's up, Vash?
Yeah, Vash, JMO. What's up, guys? Next question. Red Wings will be picking 4th overall. What are your thoughts on this? We'll start this off with you this time, Seth. What are your thoughts on the Red Wings picking 4th overall?
Well, obviously, I'm disappointed because, first of all, I really didn't like the whole circumstances of this season. If you ask me, they should just go ahead and cancel the season and just make sure next season starts off without any trouble. But I understand, they're looking at money and revenue, and I really don't like the adjusted playoff system or the adjusted lottery. So the fan in me feels like the Red Wings got the shaft big time, but I'm willing to look at the standpoint of making the best out of it. 4th overall is not terrible. After all, Steve Yzerman was 4th overall. So I'm not saying the player the Wings pick this time will be Steve Eisman. I'm just saying there have been some great players picked 4th overall and lower, and even in later rounds. So those are my thoughts.
All right, Jim, what are your thoughts on the Red Wings picking 4th overall?
I think they got completely screwed. I'm telling you the absolute truth, folks. And, I can't say anything else. You're the worst team in hockey yet. The first overall pick is a playoff team that we don't even know yet. This is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not like this team tried to tank, because I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that's our hockey team. They were just that bad. It bothers me because it seems like other teams, they're bad. Like, look, Chicago Blackhawks were really bad. And what do? They get rewarded with Patrick Kane. They get rewarded. You know what I'm saying? But our team gets bad? Oh, heck no. We see this in Detroit sports a lot. The Pistons have gone through it. The Lions go through it. And now the Red Wings, who, for me, I don't see the Red Wings have gone through it as much. But I do see it on the penalty calls and stuff like that a lot of times, that it is Detroit versus everybody. So that is how I feel about it. I feel they got screwed. Do I think they can get a good player at number 4? Yeah, of course they can. And, there's a player there that I like very much at number 4. There's actually 2 of them that I really like. But you know what? It's the same old stuff, and I'm sick of getting hosed.
For sure. Well, I guess I'm not as mad. I mean, I was definitely disappointed. It's not ideal what happened. But, I guess I'm not overly upset, because I believe we're going to get a good hockey player. I believe this person's going to be a key contributor in the future. I believe we're going to get a good hockey player. I believe this person's going to contribute eventually, and maybe one day have his number retired or something like that. Maybe that one's a little bold, but no, I think we're going to get someone good, I guess, is my overall point. All right. So with us being at 4, do you want the Red Wings to stay there, trade up, or trade back? Jim, we'll start this off with you. What do you want number 4?
Unless I get a deal that blows me away, I want to stay at 4 because I want to get the talent. There's a lot of talent in this draft, but I think there's some separation between the first-tier player and the second-tier players. I would love to stay where we're at. Trading up, shouldn't have to trade up in the first place. I'm still going to reiterate what I said from the last question, but I wouldn't trade up. I don't want to give up assets right now. I want to collect them. We're not a good team. We need more draft picks. We don't need less.
Okay, I like that take. Seth, do you think the Red Wings should stay at 4, trade up, or trade back?
I have to agree with Jim on this one. If I'm to put on my GM hat, which I seem to have worn, enough from when I'm playing like NHL 12 or NHL 15, there's no way that I would want to trade any draft picks or any prospects right now, just to move up even one spot. We need more prospects. We need more picks. So stay put at 4.
Okay, I think we're all pretty much on the same page on this one. So we can go ahead and go over to the next question. Who do you want the Red Wings to use their draft pick on? Jim, let's start this one off with you, because I think you got some pretty good insight on this one.
There's a few players there that have less downside, let's put it that way, to anyone else. And one is the defenseman. It's Jamie Drysdale. He's 18 years old, 5'10", 170 pounds. He's really good two-way player. His lower body is really strong for a defenseman. He's not got the huge size, but I think he plays really good defense, for that size, and also can play the offensive part. And too, he's kind of shifty. I watched him play actually. He's backward skate is probably the best I've seen. I do like the guy. I like the guy a lot. And it's very important when you're a defenseman, you need to be able to skate backwards. That's one of the biggest things that you have to do when you're playing defense. And he is one of the best. Man, he's one of the best prospects I've ever seen that way. I really, really like his talent. He has a lot of power in his legs, and I think he could be. I could see him teaming with Mort Seider and being very effective for the Red Wings. He's aggressive. He has a high IQ, hockey IQ. He's really smooth. If you watch him skate, he's really, really smooth. He's got a lot of speed. I'm very high on this kid. I really am. So that's my guy. I'm not going to say 1 and 2 because I don't think I have a 1 and 2. It's either one of these two players. My second player is Marco Rossi. He's 18 years old. He's a center. He's from Austria. He's 5'9", 179 pounds. He's a speedy playmaker. He's an excellent passer. Good skater. He's patient. He doesn't force the play. His high hockey IQ, but also he has a high motor. This is the difference between him and Byfield. I can't remember the guy's name. But when I looked at film on this guy, he actually plays good defense for a centerman. He'll come back. He'll help his defenseman. He won 59% of his faceoffs last year. I think he's going to be a number 1 center in this league. He's small, but he's kind of like Brad Marchand, and not in the way that he's aggressive, but in the way that he doesn't get knocked off his skates for that size. He has a very good balance. He can pass in the slot at a high level. Now, this is important. He can pass in that danger zone, which is a slot area right in front of the net, and where if you're on a power play and they're playing the 4-man box. If they're collapsing on that box, you got a guy in the front, like to the far right of the net, he can get it to that player with a pretty pass. This guy's a very good passer. He's a good two-way centerman, and I really, really like this player. So it's those two for me. I know they've talked about Tim Stutzel. I like him. He played with Mort Seider, so and he's an outstanding stick handler. I do like him. I like the other two a little better. That's just me. He's shifty, agile. He's very creative, and he also has a high motor. Those are the things I look for in a finished hockey player or even a prospect, because of the fact that if you're going to take plays off, if you're not playing defense, if you're not a two-way player, which is a lot of these guys that have high skill levels, these three players have a very high motor. They come back and play defense. And that's what the Red Wings need. That's what Yzerman had, was his heart. You can't measure that in some of these players, but when you look at the film on them, you can see what they're doing defensively, and you see what they do offensively. If they have no energy on defense and all of a sudden they're going to cut into a play, you know what I mean, or go down the ice to cherry pick or something like that, it's not the player I want on my team. It just isn't. We're also going to talk about Lucas Raymond real quick. He's 5'10", 165 pounds. He's 17 years old. He kind of dominated the 18 and 19-year-old bracket, but the only downside on him for me is that he was a fourth liner for the Swedish team, and also he didn't play a lot of shifts. So that bothers me a little bit, but he plays strong. He's got a two-way game, capable penalty killer. He has a strong wrist shot. He's got excellent vision. He doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses, but he's kind of in a hurry. I mean, he doesn't really wait for the play to happen. He tries to generate his own things and make things happen. Sometimes you make mistakes when you do that, but he's a very good player as well. So those two are on my list as 1 and 2, and Stutzel and Raymond are probably 3 and 4 for me.
All right. I like that a lot. I don't know how I'm going to top that, but Seth, do you have any particular player that you want the Red Wings to take, player or players?
Well, I can't. Yeah, I don't think anyone can top Jim. But based upon Jim's description, with Drysdale and Rossi, one of those two definitely make the most sense from the standpoint of the type of players that Yzerman is used to acquiring, drafting, and the type of players that he played with in his playing days. smart, intelligent players with a great hockey sense, skilled, complete players. So based upon what I've read about Drysdale in particular and what Jim said about Drysdale and Rossi, well, either one of those players fit the bill. Of course, most people will probably be apprehensive about their size, but size isn't always everything, because Darren Fleer, I believe, was 5'6", and he was one of the top scorers in the NHL. But I think if I had to really pick one, I'm really liking Drysdale, because based upon what I've heard and read, he reminds me a lot of Nicholas Lidstrom. I mean, maybe not exactly like Lidstrom, but has a lot of those similarities in terms of his skills, and even like Sider, good two-way defenseman, good skaters, and, intelligent players.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I can envision Drysdale and Sider. Oh my God, would that be a defensive tandem for it could be all pro. You know what I mean? At that level, they could if they had time together. That could be a hell of a defensive pairing for me. I really like them, but I think I like Rossi the best. And I think my reasoning is because we need a centerman. I really believe we need a darn good top line center to go along with some of these skill players that we've been drafting and acquiring and stuff like that. But man, the defenseman, he's awesome. He is too. So either one of those guys I'd be happy with.
All right. I think I want Drysdale. I think I agree. Like that I could see Sider and Drysdale being a very solid blue line tandem for many years to come. I like that he's a two-way defenseman. He's always in the right spot. He's always in the right spots at the right time. And I like that he's a very strong passer, good stretch passer. I think Drysdale is definitely – I think Drysdale's my choice, at least at this immediate moment. But we'll go on to – does anyone else have anything to add to this, or do you think we can go on to the next question?
I do, but I'm trying to find the name of that other player, and it's escaping me right now. Byfielder, is that his name?
Byfield, I think, is the player you're talking about.
Yeah, Byfield. Okay, I want to talk about him real quick. He's 6'4", but he's got speed, and he's quick, but he's not agile. And here's my problem with him. Now, he's probably going to go second overall. I'm just letting you know, this guy might not even be there by the time the Wings pick because of his size. He's 6'4", 17 years old. He's 214-pound centerman. But I don't like him. I mean, I hope the Red Wings don't take him. And here's my reasons why. The guy I'm serious. I don't want him. He takes plays off. He does not play defense real well. He's a good, fast skater, but only in one line. He's not agile. He's not good on his edges. He falls down a lot. And you would think at that height that he would play more physical than he does. And he doesn't. He doesn't use that size. And so he's got skill and he's fast for 6'4", but I would like to see him. I would have liked to have seen the film on him where he's helping out his defense when he's coming back to cut somebody off. I don't see it, and I see, in fact, it looks like in the defensive zone he looks lazy, and he just kind of standing around. Looks like he's tired and everything. As soon as it goes to the offense, he's on his heels and he's on. He's pushing himself down the ice, and I'm like, okay. He's only 17 years old though, so certain things can be taught. But I hate to say this, I don't think heart can be taught. I really don't. And so when I see that in a player, I just don't want him on my team. Just my take.
I think your concerns are very warranted, because the player that comes to mind for me in terms of 6'4" and skilled, Eric Lindros, completely different player when he came right into the league. I mean, he could score and just pound people. Now, granted, that may have been to his judgment with all the concussions, but still, he was a phenomenal player, before all the concussions, slowed him down.
Yeah, but he's still, I agree with you. That's a very good comparison. But Lindros is more skilled than this kid is.
Yeah.
Much more skilled. But yeah, it's a good comparison. It really is. I know Jack Hughes last year. They said he was so good and all this stuff, but I don't think he's going to make it. I mean, he might. I'm not going to say he won't, but it's the heart issue, and it's not a heart condition. It's something that Yzerman had, playing on one knee, and you just either have it or you don't. Sometimes you get that in football too, where it's like you see players and they have all this ability, but they don't have the heart for the game. And I think in the end that wins.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to add, or do you think we can go on to the next question?
I'm good.
You can go on.
All right. Did Yzerman make a mistake keeping Jeff Blashill? And what are your general thoughts on Jeff Blashill as a head coach? Seth, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on that question?
This may not be the popular opinion, but Blashill basically signed on to become the captain of the Titanic after it struck the iceberg. And it's been sitting ever since. So
I like that.
It's really a no-win situation for him. My view on him is kind of complex to where I feel like he may have been better served in the AHL and the college level, but at the same he was dealt with not that great of a deck. Holland didn't really set him up for success. This was a team that already should have been rebuilding probably back in 2009, to be honest, or 2011 at the very least. And people look at how the team got worse and worse under him, but they're without even remembering that the GM is the one that built the team. And you also have to look at the fact that the Red Wings as a fan base has been very spoiled, really, for 20 plus years, to where the team was able to make the playoffs 25 years. So we're used to a certain level of success. And like I said, I think just because people got spoiled, when the team started really struggling, they didn't know how to act without not realizing that this is a rebuild. This is something that's going to have to, that this is necessary, a rebuild. It's going to be painful. I think the older fans, like, Jim's age, sorry, Jim.
Hey, now. I'm just kidding.
Those that are old enough to remember the Dead Wings, I think that group is a lot more patient, and they better understand the situation that we're in. That we're not going to get right better, like in a year or two. And people really need to listen to what Yzerman says. Be patient. I find his approach is very refreshing, to where he's willing to be transparent and be patient and tell you the whole truth. Be patient. Whereas I felt like Bob Quinn, on the other hand, was dishonest when he said that 9-7 isn't good enough, and then brings in Matt Patricia, and basically the Lions are in a freaking rebuild.
Exactly.
I felt that was dishonest.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point,
I know this is kind of long-winded for me, but I feel like for now, if you fire Blashill, who else are you going to bring in? Who are you going to bring in that's going to make the team better right now? Yeah, people say, look at the Blues, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime scenario fit for a Disney film. It's not going to happen like that here.
Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, for sure. No, Seth, do you have anything else to add to that? But
no.
All right, you're good. All right. I actually like that take a lot, Seth. Jim, what are your thoughts on Blashill? And did Yzerman make a mistake keeping him?
Yzerman didn't make any mistake keeping him, because he's a placeholder. That's what he is. He's going to be here until we build the team, and then he's going to be gone, and Yzerman will have his man. I think Yzerman already has somebody in mind, whether they're under contract right now or not. I do. I think he has somebody in mind. I don't think it's Blashill. I think Blashill is a placeholder until he finds somebody, until this team is ready to have a head coach that's going to get us somewhere. You can't bring in somebody that's going to win you a championship right now when we're not even ready to do that. You got to take time. In the NHL, it takes a lot longer for players to develop than it does in the NFL. So this is a totally different situation. So you got to give time for these kids to develop and to become good hockey players. And Blashill's good at that. Blashill has, he does teach kids well. I don't know about developing players. I don't think I've seen the development I want to see out of this team and out of these players. So, I don't know. Part of me says he can develop talent, and other parts of me doesn't believe that at all, just because of based on the record and based on what I've seen out of Dylan Larkin and others. That, I think he's a placeholder for now, and then when Yzerman gets the team built, then he'll bring in the person to lead them.
All right, that's a good take too. So now I really don't think Blashill is a qualified NHL head coach, if I got to be honest. I have my reasons. Like, the team.
So what are your reasons?
The team looks so clueless out there. There's no team chemistry. Players always seem like they're out of position. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like he's got the farm to work with or anything like that. Like, he doesn't have a lot to work with. But at the very least, I would expect players to be in the right spot at the right time, at the very least. But these players are never on the same page with each other, it seems
but
like.
He's trying to, I think there's something to that, though. I think he's trying to test them out in different situations, see how they respond, and it's part of developing younger guys. And I think that's what he's here to do. I don't think he's the coach to bring us to a championship, and I agree with the holes that you point out. But I think that he's switching line combinations, and he's doing this and that to see who plays well and what player plays differently with different people in different situations. He's given them experience and a whole bunch of things, including losing, by the way. But you know what I'm saying. But I think he is here to test and to develop these guys and put them in situations where they aren't comfortable.
No, that's also a good point. But I guess my other thing is like, even just exclude this year, because this year is just a total wash. Felt like we were losing by 3 or more goals a lot this year.
We have a problem scoring for sure.
Yeah, no, but there's been a lot of highs and lows. Like in the 2019 season, we had so many cold. We actually did have some hot streaks in the 2019 season. I think we started like 1-8-1 or something like that, and then we had a bunch of cold streaks. I can't remember the exact timing and place of them. We had a lot of cold streaks, but we also had some hot streaks. If some of you might remember that, but we had some hot streaks, but we had some really bad cold streaks. I guess what I'm getting at is that there's too many highs and there's too many lows. There's no consistency with that team. So with everything that I just said, this is funny. It's a bad time to need a head coach. I don't think it was the right or the wrong decision, honestly. I think Seth already alluded to it. If we fire Blashill, we're probably still not going to make the playoffs next year. And if
I agree, it's not the right time to fire him. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's not. If we keep him, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. If we get someone else, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. So it doesn't matter if we kept him or not. It's just 1 year. We have a lot of years left to watch this team. At least I hope we have a lot of years to watch this team. I think we are good with I think it's okay that we kept Blashill. It's not the end of the world to keep Blashill. But I agree, he's just I don't see him as the long-term solution. But for the immediate moment, I see I think we're good. It's okay that we kept him for this particular time. He might even be fired mid-season next year, honestly. But we'll see what happens. What's up, Steve-O? How's it going? Our person in the chat, but yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add on Blashill, or do you think we can go on to?
JMO's big on. He wants him fired. He said he only won 17 games, but what do you have to work with? I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't at this point. I believe he's a placeholder, and I believe that he will be fired eventually, but I think that Yzerman wants to build the team first. I don't know why. That's the way I feel about it. He came in, he kept Blashill, and then he's going to keep him another year. And it's like, hey, whatever. I know we're going to suck still, and I know I'm developing something. It's not there yet. So whatever we do during these couple of seasons till I got everything built, who cares? And I know that sounds like a terrible, callous attitude, but it is what it is. We suck right now. We're rebuilding, and that's what we're doing. And that's what he told us we were going to be doing. So for me, I don't care whether he's there or not. We're not going to win right now. Just the way it is.
Yeah, I guess what our overall point is that I don't think we can bring in there's no one that's going to come in and turn this around overnight.
No, because it's the GM. It's a GM job.
No, there's too many holes to fill. There's too many problems. Not like I said, I don't think Blashill is the best coach, but I think we can. I just don't think it's a good time to need a head coach, and it's not a good time, and it's not the worst thing to keep him at this immediate moment.
Yep.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to add, or should we go ahead and move on?
No, we can move on.
All right. This is actually a great question. This is that whole discussion is actually a great leeway into this next question. How far away are the Red Wings from getting back to the playoffs? Jim, let's start with you.
I think it's 3 to 5 years. It takes a while for people to develop. I think it's going to take a while to turn this around, get the draft picks that we're picking now, get the young players that he's trading for and signing and all this stuff, and to get them, to get this team rebuilt. It's going to take a while. It's not an overnight thing, and as bad as that sounds, I mean, when we get to the point, when you start building a young core like he's doing right now through the draft, and some of your draft picks are going to be, really, really good, and some of your draft picks are going to fail. That's why we have so many of them. And I think even if we get some players that start succeeding and we have other players that are succeeding at the same positions, that gives us trade value so that we can get a good veteran in here to help with the young kids. And I think that's going to be what he does in the end of it all. I think we're a while away to answer the question.
All right, Seth, I might have to disagree slightly, but I'll get to that in a second. Seth, how far are the Red Wings away from getting back to the playoffs?
Yikes. Like Jim was saying, this isn't like the NFL to where I could say realistically it could be 2 to 3 years. Here in the NHL, yes, players do take longer to develop. Without any, outside factors that have yet to happen that may change things, I say 3 years at the earliest. Because like Jim said, with the NHL, well, in any draft, but especially the NHL draft, it's a crapshoot. Some players will end up being really good, but a lot more will end up not being good and never seeing the light of day of the NHL. And then of those that do, some of them that were maybe picked high may just be serviceable role players, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a very small percentage of players become true stars. So it's just people riding by. Jeez. Anyway,
okay.
But I really don't see them making the playoffs any sooner than 3 years.
Okay.
Without any other factors that haven't occurred.
Making the playoffs isn't a huge task in the NHL, really. But I mean, they might make the playoffs, get knocked out in the first round in about 2 years, maybe. But I think it's going to be more like 3 or 4 years before they're getting a team where you can start to see that they're going to go further in the playoffs. I think that's what we want to see. We don't want to see the Red Wings one and done every single year either, because that's what we were seeing for a long, long time. And I think that what we're building here is more for the Stanley Cup run than it is for just making the playoffs.
Good point. I think that's deep down, that's what I was really visualizing without really articulating it. Just like you said, Jim, I don't want to be like the Red Wings were during the last 2 years of their streak, or the Pistons during the Stan Van Gundy years. Well, the 1 year where they made it in one and done.
Ouch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we might actually have to add that question. But in terms of making the playoffs, just the playoffs, I really don't think they're that far. Like, the Red Wings are actually surprisingly in pretty good shape with their cap right now. So I can't name any free agents off the top of my head that we would bring in, but we can bring in some free agents. We're going to draft. Hopefully, I trust Yzerman, so I assume we're going to draft pretty good. In terms of making just the playoffs, I think we can get back to the playoffs in 2 years. I don't necessarily think it'll happen next year, but in 2 years, I can see us getting back to the playoffs.
I don't see that. The reason I don't see that is I don't think Yzerman is going to take those shortcuts. And what I mean by that is I don't think he's bringing big name free agents in here before he builds his team. I think he'll build it for 2 years through the draft and through strategic free agents that will help these young kids develop into a solid core of players. I don't see him going out and getting like a big name free agent to jumpstart us and put us into a playoff contending situation until this team is ready to have that. I think that it's going to be a complete bill without those shortcuts. That's exactly what I think.
Okay,
and then if he
go ahead, Seth.
And then if he does bring in a big name guy, if he does, I'm not saying he would, it would probably be like that one player who more than anything else would just provide that veteran leadership and know-how. He's not like he would be a game changer on the ice. And it would be to provide that leadership and, that locker room presence, if anything.
True, but I still don't think it's going to be a big name guy. I think it'll be a guy that can teach the young kids that may not be the best superstar type player, but is a very good teacher and is a very good almost on the ice coach. I think that's what he'd be looking for at this point.
All right. Shout out to Nomis J, DSA.
What's up, Nom?
Yeah, what's up, Nom? All right, well, I'm going to add a question real fast.
No, don't. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Now since we were talking about the playoffs, how far do you think the Red Wings are from winning? I think this is what you guys were kind of alluding to. How long are the Red Wings from being like actual Stanley Cup contenders? Like not just getting into the playoffs, like a team that you would look at and go like, that team has a very real chance to win a Stanley Cup. How far do you think the Red Wings are from being that team? Jim, we'll start with you. 4
to 5 years.
All right.
The reason I'm saying that is because we have to have a time for these younger kids to develop and for draft picks for next year and the next year to start developing as well. Once you build that solid core players, we get one of our goaltenders up to speed, get him up. We got to get all these people on the same page. We have to have a core of excellent players. And once you can get that young core, then you can start adding veterans that have been there, that have been in the playoffs, that have, that are really good yet, but yet they can still teach the young guys. And I think that those type of A-type free agents are about 4 years away, because then we'll have a core that's developed. We'll have players that are ready, to push for a cup. I think we'll have enough talent at that point. And I think that's how you build here now. I think you build through the draft and then you add the star players or the players that are going to be your addition, your role players, your pieces, in free agency. I think the star players from most teams are being drafted now, and I think that's where we're going to go. I think that's where this team is headed. And so, you're going to have players like Mortis Sider, hopefully, that is going to be your defenseman of the future. Your guy that can win the Norris Trophy, for best defenseman. You gotta have that guy. You gotta have your center. You gotta have a top line. You gotta have a grind line or a type of line that's a checking line. You have to have that second line that can come in there and add scoring and add defense. You have to have a good power play 1 and 2. And right now our power play is awful. I mean, it's probably one of the worst power plays in the league. So we need to develop all of that stuff right now. You know, those players are in development and haven't even been drafted yet. So yeah, 4 to 5 years.
All right, Seth, how long do you think the Red Wings are from being like a legit Stanley Cup contender?
Well, I was going to say this. Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. Are you kidding me? Playoffs? But seriously, though.
Anyway, Allen Iverson?
But seriously, no, that was Jim Mora.
Yeah.
Iverson was practice.
Iverson didn't want to
practice. Okay, but yeah, we're not talking about the game. We're talking about practice. But yeah, went off on a tangent there. But
yeah, no, it's good.
To piggyback on Jim's point, I agree. 4 to 5 years. Right now, I'm working on a series called Red Wings Anthology, where I'm basically covering the Red Wings during the entire time where they've been under the ownership of the Ilitch family, which has been literally just about my whole life, because I was born in May 1982 and he bought the team in June. So Yzerman was drafted in 83, and it wasn't really until maybe 1987 or 88, 4 to 5 years later, to where they got to the point to where they were like a really good team to where they could challenge for the cup. I mean, they had guys like Probert, Koser, Klima, a young Adam Oates, a young Steve Chason, and Yves Racine, to where they were able to go to the conference finals for 2 straight years. Now, granted, they kind of stumbled after that, and they had to retool the team. So, but I mean, yeah, it was about 3 to 4 years, and then when they stumbled again, they had to retool and add, you know, over the years, Fedorov, Lidstrom, Konstantinov, Kozlov, Shepard. So now, by that time, that was like maybe 3, 4, 5 years after that. So by that time, though, by the time Konstantinov, Kozlov, and Lidstrom were on the team, Yzerman had been on the team for 8 years. So I'm not saying it will take that long overall, but I'd say in terms of to become a cup contender, it would realistically have to take about 4 or 5 years. I'm not talking about winning the cup, but, you know, just to be contenders.
And those articles are very good. We have the first article in the series on that Seth wrote, and that you can find that on DetroitSportsAlliance.com. That's DetroitSportsAlliance.com, and Monday will be the second installment of the anthology. So we're looking forward to putting that up for you guys too. It's a really good read, so it's on DetroitSportsAlliance.com if you want to check that out.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah. All right, does anyone else have anything to say, or do you think we can go ahead and move on?
Well, I've always got something to say, but we can move on.
All right, sure. All right, Seth,
let's move on.
All right. Who is the Red Wings' best player right now? Larkin, Bertuzzi, Mantha, or somebody else? Jim, let's start with you.
It's the best out of the worst right now. It's unfortunate because Larkin showed so much promise right away. You got to see what I look at, and I think that Larkin had that heart and spirit when he first got there. I don't know if that losing has taken a toll on him or what, but I don't see the same player that I used to see. So I don't know about him. Anthony Mantha really came on last year, and I thought, or the year before that, I think. But I thought he plays really well. He's a big kid. I mean, it took a while for him to get over that broken leg thing, and some mental stuff is what I think was going on there. My favorite right now, Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm sorry. I mean, that kid has got a fire. He's got a heart. He can score. He's gritty. I mean, for me, yeah, I'm going to go with Tyler Bertuzzi, believe it or not.
All right. I ain't mad at it. You ain't going to hear me killing anything. Seth, who do you think is the Red Wings' best player right now? Larkin, Bertuzzi, Mantha, or do you think it's somebody else?
You know, to be honest, it would be very hard to say. If I'm to go by personal preference, because I'll admit, I've always liked the skill players, the stars. Yzerman is my favorite player of all time. So I probably, for that reason, wouldn't pick Bertuzzi, even though he probably is, because of the combination of offense, grit, size, and heart. Obviously, he's the type of guy that I would obviously want on my team. But I probably would lean towards Larkin. But like Jim said, Larkin is kind of making it harder for me now because he doesn't seem like he's the same player. Like the losing is taking its toll. So I'm hoping that maybe he can take the offseason to re-examine himself and, maybe even get a pep talk from Eiserman or whoever, and get one of those, as Ken Holland would say, come to Jesus talks.
Yes.
So, and then, you obviously can't overlook Mantha because, like I said, like Jim said, I mean, he came on, it took him a while, but he did come on real strong. So I feel like he has a lot of promise. I just don't think he should be dropping the gloves all that much because he gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess if I was to be unbiased in terms of right now, it would have to be Bertuzzi in terms of, the heart that he still shows and, everything that he brings to the table.
Okay. Well, in all honesty, I think I'm going to honestly still go with Larkin. I know Bertuzzi was better this year, a bit better this year, but I still am honestly going to say Larkin, I think, right now is Red Wings' best player between those three. And honestly, Hronek, he has an underrated season.
Yeah, I like Hronek, though.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I'd call Hronek our best player, but I think he had an underrated season.
He did.
But for right now, I would still go with Larkin. I know he wasn't great by any means this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go with Larkin. He's averaging the most points per Larkin for his last 3 seasons is averaging 0.83 points per game. Bertuzzi for his last 2 seasons is averaging 0.66 points per game. And Mantha during his last 3 seasons is averaging 0.71 points per game. So I think let's go with Larkin. He didn't have a great year, but I think we gotta have that come to Jesus, as Seth said. And I think we can see a little bit of a bounce back, but I definitely need to see more out of Larkin. Like, I want to see the 2019 Larkin where he had 30+ goals and 40+ assists. I need that Larkin back. But
I have a question. And Steve-O brings up a point, and he's talking about Philip Zadina playing in Grand Rapids and is their most talented player. I have to ask you guys, what do you guys both think about Phil Zadina? And maybe if you're looking Veleno as well, the center down there. What do you think about those 2 players?
About Zadina?
Let's go with Seth first, and then we'll go Pete.
Okay, well, unfortunately, unlike you guys, I haven't been able to really see footage. I've really just read. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Veleno, so I guess with him, I'm willing to be more patient with him and, let him develop. And then when he's ready, bring him up. It sounds like he'll be like a really good number 2 center who could play on the top line if needed.
I agree with that. That's why I want Ross.
And then with Zadina, I feel like, he had a lot of pressure being drafted 6th overall, and then he didn't really do himself a lot of favors when he said that he was going to fill the nets with pucks of the teams that passed him. I mean, I liked his swagger, but that did put a big bullseye on him, I feel. But overall, I felt like he would need time to develop. And I'm not disappointed at all with his development. And when he got called up, I think this last time, he started to really show something. And so I think he's going to be just fine. Do I see him as being like that elite number 1 player, face of the franchise? Maybe, no, not necessarily, but I feel like he could be a really good complementary piece, kind of like maybe, I don't want to say Jaromir Jagr.
He reminds me of a Brett Hall.
Yeah, Brett Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Not as many goals, but yeah.
I think No, but I'm just saying the way he sets up his shot. I mean, he's a goal scorer, same type of a player. He needs to be set up. He creates a little bit, but I think he's better on a one-timer or something like that for me. What do you think, PD?
What do I think about Zadina?
Yeah, and Veleno.
Well, I'm not overly familiar with Veleno at this immediate moment.
In Grand Rapids, we drafted.
Yeah, I'm not. I need to do a lot of catching up on the Grand Rapids stuff.
That's okay.
As far as Zadina, I mean, I honestly, I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent about Zadina right now. I mean, I felt bad for the kid. Like, I remember we were just getting pounded in one game. Like, he scored a goal, and no one was even excited because, like, they were getting pounded. He scored a goal, and there's nothing to be excited about because you're getting pounded. But as far as I know, Austin, I have an indifferent feeling about Zadina at this immediate moment. I don't have any high feelings towards him or low feelings towards him. I'm just indifferent about Zadina at this immediate moment.
Zadina to me is a disappointment. I'm going to tell you why right now. He felt like he was supposed to be with the main team right away without producing. He felt like, he felt it was an insult to put him in Grand Rapids. He saw this talk, but I don't see a lot. Well, I've watched film on him in Grand Rapids. I watched him in Detroit. I just don't see it. I don't see what the big deal is, because to me, I don't think he's great. I think he's barely good right now. He has a potential to be great if he gets out of his own way. He's in his head way too much. I love confidence, but when confidence turns to arrogance, sometimes that doesn't really translate all that well to the NHL. And I don't know what is going on with him mentally, but I think it really hurt him that he wasn't on the team right away. I think that it hurt him that he got sent down to Grand Rapids. I don't think he's been the same player since then, but I like a lot of his game. It's just I don't think he can get out of his own way right now.
Oh, I
some very good points.
I can feel you there for sure. All right, can we go ahead and move on, or does anyone else?
Yeah, do you have anything else to say?
Did
you have anything else on him, Seth?
Yes, well, yeah, Jim, you made some very good points on Zadina because, very good comparison to Brett Hull in terms of playing style.
Yeah,
and then you brought up some good points that it did seem like he was upset that he didn't, make the team right away. So I feel like though maybe it's me being hopeful. I feel like he has gotten humble enough to where he realized that he had to pay his dues. Because like I said, when he came up, I think this last time, he really started to show some promise. And, he's been told to work on his all-around game. And from what I've been reading, he's been working on that. So I feel like he would be, a pretty good player. Like I said, not the number one elite player, but I feel like for him, 30 to 40 goals and in a good defensive game would be good enough for me.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if he's going to get there. And JMO says it's Zadina a bust. Not yet. I mean, it takes time for some of these players to develop. And remember how young these kids are. You were saying earlier about that guy, the kid's only 17. And I'm like, yeah, he is, but he's got a lot to work on in his game. But Zadina is a good skater. He's crafty. He's got a really good shot. I think he has a chance, but this is a big year for him. I think he needs to deliver this year. I think he needs to start developing into that player. He doesn't have to develop fully, but I think he has to start taking steps towards that direction where, yeah, he might be a bust. I don't want him to, but I see a little bit of a sign of that, and I think it's all mental. I don't think it's physical at all. I think he has the talent's there. Can he put it together? And that's a situation that we deal with a lot, especially in young kids, hockey players that, hey, this kid's good, but can he get out of his own way and can he start to be teachable? And I think that's one of the biggest things right now with Zadina.
All right. Those are all fair. All right. So should we go on to the next question then?
Sure.
Next question.
All right. I think you all kind of already alluded to this answer, but is Dylan Larkin a player the Red Wings can build a Stanley Cup winning team around? We'll start this off with you, Seth.
That is a really hard question because, I think when his rookie season, when he had that early start, a lot of people were maybe reminded of Yzerman, but, to be fair, he's not the same type of player. I mean, he has a lot of the same style of game, two-way player, very good on both ends. I would say he's more comparable to Jonathan Teves, especially because of the time. You're not going to see as many guys score 60, 70 goals. You'll see more guys, with numbers more comparable to Teves, 70, 80 points, strong two-way game. In terms of Larkin being a true franchise player, I really don't see it. I don't see him as, I think it would kind of have to be like the Red Wings in the 90s when they finally won the Cup. Yzerman, he was the captain, but he wasn't the best player per se by that time. Fedorov was the most skilled player. So I think I would have to see, to me, it would be a similar scenario to where Larkin can be the captain, but, the leader of the team, but someone else would have to be the franchise player.
Ooh, I like that take a lot. Jim, is Dylan Larkin a player the Red Wings can build a Stanley Cup winning team around?
No. It's a simple answer because they're building now and they're not building around him. They're building talent right now. Will Larkin be part of that talent? Maybe. I mean, possibly. The kid's not bad. I mean, let's not say that he's a terrible player and we should get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. But is he the piece that you build around? I don't know. I think Yzerman's putting a bunch of pieces in there and seeing what happens. I think he's going to see what leaders develop. And I don't think we're building around any certain player right now. I think we're just building.
All right. That's a fair answer. But I think we're all kind of on the same page with this one. No, he's not. At least not yet. I need a point per game or more out of him, or at least 80 points per game out of him before I can start saying that. I mean, he lost his heart. Like, it seems like I hear everyone, like, whether it be Mickey Redman or whatever, they all I hear about him is how much he wants to be great and how hard he works. And I do believe all of that, but I still do need a little bit more out of him. Now, I don't want to make it sound like he's got a bunch of great players around him. He's got a great supporting cast. But I don't know. At some point, you've got to produce a little bit more than Larkin has produced. Here's the thing with him, though. I will give him this. He improved as the season went on. In his first 28 games, he had 6 goals, 10 assists, and just 16 points. He had points with streaks of 5 games and 7 games. So he had a horrible start to the season, honestly. Then in the last 43 games, he picked it up. He got 13 goals, 24 assists. He only had 1 bad pointless streak, and that was just a 4-game sample size. So he had a horrible start to the season in the first 28 games, but he picked it up a bit in the last 43 games. He was on pace for 39 assists for a full season. I think he's a pretty good playmaker. I think he's become a better goal scorer. But at this immediate moment, overall, what I'm getting is at this immediate moment, no, he's not that. He's not that player. But does anyone else have anything to add, or should we?
Oh, I think we can move on. I don't honestly think that there's anything else to say. I don't think Larkin's the piece. I just don't.
Yeah.
To quote Forrest Gump.
Say it again.
To quote Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, that's a good one. Go ahead, PD.
Right,
is there another question, or I don't even know.
All right, yeah, we have one more question, and then people. Everyone, I want to see who your top 5 Detroit Red Wings of all time are. If you're in the chat, drop your top 5 Detroit Red Wings of all time. Who do you think the 5 best players for this franchise have been? This is always the fun. This is always where it gets fun. I love having these conversations because everyone's answers are so different. Jim, who in your opinion are the 5 greatest players to ever play for the Detroit Red Wings?
This is tough. I mean, I got Gordie Howe, Steve Yzerman, Nick Lindstrom, Ted Lindsay, and Terry Sawchuk.
All right. I like it. Like I said,
I left off Alex Delvecchio, but I really like him too. Honorable mention.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, if you're in the chat, drop your top 5 Detroit lines of all time, and also get some questions ready if you have any, I guess. But Seth, who are your top 5 Detroit Red Wings of all time? Who are the 5 best players?
I do not believe this. I have the exact same 5 as Jim. I did not expect this. I
wow,
there
no
may
way.
be a difference of 1 or 2, but here's my reasoning behind those 5. How you can't have a team without Mr. Hockey on it,
That's right.
all-time Red Wings team. That goes without saying. Yzerman is my favorite player of all time, so obviously I would pick him. Lidstrom is, I think, maybe not everyone, but most people have to agree he's the greatest defenseman of the franchise history.
I agree.
And maybe you can argue him being the greatest of all time. Some will still say Bobby Orr, but I think Lidstrom's in the conversation.
Yeah.
Sawchuk, you have to have Sawchuk in there because, the best goalie in franchise history. And in a way, it seems like after he left, every goalie that came after him was kind of chasing after the ghost of Terry Sawchuk because, in a way, everyone was being compared to him. Almost every goalie except maybe Ozzy, for whatever reason, has been criticized by the fans relentlessly, whereas fans were so slow, I guess, to turn on Ozzy, maybe because of the baby face.
Yeah, but Ozzy was actually a pretty good goaltender. It's tough. I mean, I don't know. For me, I thought Ozzy wasn't bad. I don't.
I thought he was good too.
I think my favorite of the newer era was Dom. Dominik Hasek.
Yeah, it's just that the faint. It's just that the faint. Yeah, it's just that the fans here can be so.
Oh, brutal.
I don't want to say cruel. Yeah, brutal on goalies. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
And then the 5th choice was the most agonizing one because I basically was choosing between Ted Lindsay, Fedorov, and Datsuk. And
that's tough too.
As much as I love Datsuk and Fedorov, I had to go with Lindsay because not only because finding out that he founded the Players Association, but I think in terms of if you look at the overall history of the franchise, I think he had a greater impact on the culture of the team. And then I will admit, I got to meet Mr. Lindsay, I think a couple years ago at a funny story at a Macaroni Grill across the street from Oakland University. I was wearing my Red Wings gear with my mother, and I saw this guy looking. I was like, "Who's this guy looking?" And then it didn't dawn on me until a little later that I realized that was Ted Lindsay. So my mother and I went over and talked to him. Great guy, gracious. Couldn't hear that well, but very gracious. Still, obviously, a very proud man. And, it was really cool to just be able to talk to him. And it seemed like he was very grateful that a young fan, I'm 38, but look like I'm 27, that this young guy, knew who he was and appreciated him as a player. So I'm sure that was, that meant a lot to him. And I could tell from his daughter, who was also there with her husband, it meant a lot to her too. So that was just a really cool moment being able to meet him.
That's awesome, dude. Man, that's an awesome story. I love that. I want to say something about this, though. It says, I'm really disappointed that the Wings aren't going to get Alexis Lafreniere because the top line of Larkin, Zadina would be a Stanley. Thing is, for me, I think Rossi in the middle there would be really, really good. I do. I'm sorry, but I think he would be very, very good with that line. So I don't know. I mean, Lafreniere is supposed to be the number 1 overall and the best can't miss player, but you just never know. Yzerman was picked 4th. So we got to relax just a little bit about that. Okay, PD, it's your turn. What was your 5?
Well, I'm really shocked that we're almost all on the same page like that. Mine only has a slight difference, but you know what? I have to give a shout out to all, I have a list of all the players that I'm gonna eventually do career breakdowns on, but I have to shout all these guys out first, and then I'll give my 5. There's Red Kelly, Delvecchio, Abel, Shanahan, Dotsuk, Zetterberg, Ullman, Coffey, Sid Howe, Larry Ivanov.
But Paul Coffey played most of his career in Pittsburgh, though.
In Edmonton, too.
Edmonton.
Yeah. Oh, Edmonton. I'm sorry. What
he did come here and have some productive seasons for us.
Yeah, he did. He played in Edmonton for quite a while. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
No, it's all good. But we just have to shout out. He had some productive seasons for us, so I felt he still need a shout out. But Kesov, Marty Berry, he was one of the players on the very first Stanley Cup we ever won. Chelios, Goodfellow. We have a lot of great in our history. It's painful, but it's honestly amazing that we have almost the exact same list. My top 5 was Howe, Yzerman, Lidstrom, and then I went Fedorov number 4, and then I went Lindsay number 5.
Wow.
It's actually, I did not expect us to.
You didn't have Sawchuk on your honorable mention?
Well, you guys already talked about Sawchuk, so that's why.
Oh, okay.
Well, if I gave out Sawchuk, if I talked about Sawchuk, then I don't know. But yeah, no, Sawchuk's getting an honorable mention. I don't know how I missed him, but
you're good. You're good.
I want to give away my top 5 that easily. Well, I already basically did, but no, we've had so many great players in our history. And in all honesty, you could do a top 20. This needs to be more like a top 20 list because there's just the amount of players that we had.
Shanahan was such a good one too that you mentioned.
Sure.
Steve-O says Fedorov might have been the best two-way forward ever. I got to agree with that on the point that he actually was playing defense for a while for us. For a minute, Vash Darwin says the acquisition of Brendan Shanahan helped us get tough and helped us become a playoff team, and that's true too. That's true. Shanahan was an outstanding player, and I remember so many games with him and the Irish jig and all that stuff. And yeah, he had a bunch of stuff. I just love that. I loved him and Gordie Howe. There's so many players in Red Wing history. It's one of the deepest franchises. We had so many players just come in and out of this team too, like Curtis Joseph, who got a cup of coffee here, and just like I said, Luc Robitaille, and all these players. That Mike McDonald for a minute. It's just these players that were transitioning out into the end of their career that wanted a Stanley Cup and knew they had a good chance to win it here. So much good history here.
Oh,
the interesting thing with Shanahan is because you hear a lot of talk about the Wings should retire number 91, but I hardly ever hear anyone say that they should retire Shanahan's number, which I feel like he should warrant some discussion. I really do.
I agree with that. He was an integral part of that era, and I don't know. I loved him as a player, gritty scorer. There's so many players though, aren't there?
Yeah, there's too many to chew.
I think, to be honest, so I was a big fan of Yuri Fisher, if you remember him and all that stuff that happened to him. I remember.
Wasn't he the one that passed out on?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think if he wouldn't have went through all that, he could have been a pretty good defenseman for us. There's been a lot of players that came through though. And Vash says he's number 14. Yeah. Number 5 and best defenseman ever. Certainly one of them. Yeah, he was Nick Lindstrom. Certainly one of the best. You can figure you had Lindstrom, Chelios, so many good defensemen in Detroit too. Just a legacy that we've built over the years. It's unlike any other team, I think, because even our Lions players, we have a lot of good Lions players, but there's there's legends that have played for us, So I love our history.
I love it. I love it too. All right. Honestly, I think we can go ahead and close the show out. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Next week, this show will be on
my channel. It's going to be on my channel next week.
Okay, it'll be on Jim's channel next week. So
this guy Steve-O says big fan of Marco Rossi, but Tim Stutzel and Tim Stutzel, but Lafreniere would have fit the team great. Yeah, he would have. I mean, but we got screwed out of that pick. He's going to go number 1 or number 2 overall. I think he's going number 1. And but if I can't get him, I want Marco Rossi. My second place obviously is the defenseman. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to get a great player no matter what. It's either going to be Drysdale or it's going to be Rossi, or maybe Yzerman goes off the reservation somewhere and finds somebody like he did last year. But I know Yzerman, and I trust Steve Yzerman to run this team and to be able to build a winner here in Detroit. I totally believe he will.
To go along with that point, Jim, this may sound weird, but judging by studying all of the moves that Yzerman made when he was in Tampa, I kid you not, I probably would have made maybe 99 or even 100% of all those moves if I was in that position. So basically, I go to myself, if I want to know how what Yzerman is going to do, I think about what I would do in that situation, because I swear. And then even when I met him last year at this special thing for the fans before the season, and I met him, and the vibe I got from him is that he and I are like kindred spirits. We think alike, and I feel like if we were growing up together around the same age, we would have been like best buddies.
From this show, Seth, I think we think alike too.
Yeah, for sure.
From what I've seen, this has been a good show. It's been the first one I've done with these two people, and I really appreciate both of you guys. I appreciate you having me on and being able to share some Wings knowledge from all these years, and I appreciate that, you guys.
Yeah, for sure. No, but but thank you everyone for coming out. If you're in the chat, J-Mo will be on Above the Rim. I believe it's happening on Detroit Drew's channel.
7 o'clock.
Yes, 7 o'clock. Above the Rim will be happening on Detroit Drew's channel for Pistons talk. So you might want to tune into that. Support my other fellow DSA members. And then next week, we will be having the Offside Show on Jim's channel, the Detroit Sports Room. So, yeah, you might want to go check out his channel. Puts out content pretty often, does good content. And then, yeah, so make sure to go subscribe to the Detroit Sports Room so you don't miss this show next week. It'll be on Detroit Sports Room channel at the same time, 3 o'clock Eastern time. But yeah.
Hey, I just want to say thank you, Vash and Steve-O, for rocking with us. 313 JMO. Thank you guys for rocking with us today. It's been an amazing show. Do you have any final thoughts there, Seth?
It's been fun. I thank you very much for inviting me, for having me on, and it's been great to be able to chat some Red Wings with you guys. Looking forward to doing more of these in the future and doing more parts of my multi-part series of the Red Wings anthology. So hope you guys enjoy that too, and get to enjoy a little bit of my own style of history lessons for the Red Wings. So
love it.
Be sure to check those out. You heard it from me, Seth Walker. And until next time.
If you want to check those articles out, that's the DetroitSportsAlliance.com. That is DetroitSportsAlliance.com, and you will see Seth's first article in his anthology, and it's up right now. The next one comes out Monday, so be looking for that. PD, final thoughts for today?
I don't really have any final thoughts. Just make sure.
All right.
I'm glad we got this going. I'm super stoked. And we're going to continue to build and keep going places. But, yeah, just make sure you go check out Above the Rim at 7 o'clock on Detroit Drew's channel. And make sure you go check out the show next week. That'll be on Jim's channel, the Detroit Sports Room. And with all of that said, thank you all for coming out, and we are out.